Well, lest you think that The Right Stuff, a lad company released through Warner Brothers, is strictly an exercise in machismo in its subject matter of stunt pilots and NASA astronauts, let's back up and reorient here, because the wives of the astronauts become a fundamental part of The Right Stuff. And I want to introduce you now to Barbara Hershey and Veronica Cartwright, respectively as Glennis Yeager and Betty Grissom. Both of you have some key scenes in the film that tell us, I think, not just about you, but about your husbands as well. For example, Barbara Hershey, with Sam Shepard as Chuck Yeager, you tell him, don't live in the past. If you do, I'm going out the door. I'm curious about your interpretation of a scene like that.
Well, part of the interesting aspect of that scene is what goes right before it. She says, right before that, she says, you know, I always hated flying. And that is quite a blow, and quite a shocking thing to say to a man who I mean, she's never said that to, whose whole life is flying. By the way, after 15 years of marriage, I've never told you this, but I always hated flying. Yet, even though I hated flying, because that's who you are, if you don't do what you're supposed to do with your life, I'm leaving. And there's a great polar wisdom to that. She's feeling both things. She's feeling her own, what she goes through, her own terror at him going up and doing that. At the same time, that's so much who he is that if he isn't that, it's nothing that she can respect. She wouldn't stay with him. So the dichotomy in there, to me, is what's beautiful.
And there's a fierceness of your own independence there too. I mean,
yes.
We mustn't forget that as
oh,
well.
No.
Now, as Betty Grissom, Veronica Cartwright, your scene, in which I think there's a similar kind of revelation here, is after Gus's problems with the press and the PR hype after his space flight has not been what at least you hoped it would be. You wanted to talk to Jackie Kennedy. You wanted the kind of celebrity status that the other astronaut had had. I'd like to hear more about that scene as you interpreted that.
Well, I think, yes, Betty does want to meet Jackie, and
who doesn't?
I mean, after all, that was the era. Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, I think she's also saying to him, hey, you deserve better. You've gone through this. You've risked your life constantly for these people. And here you have gone out and been spamming a can and gone up into space, and by no fault of his own, which she's not, you know, it's like that asking question, did you blow it or didn't you blow it? She just, which he didn't blow, and he lands that capsule and it sinks. That shouldn't make any difference. They're more interested in saving a piece of machinery and not picking up on the thing that he has done. And he's worked so long for them, he deserves it too.
And the two of you have to face the press immediately after that moment and put the smiles back on and all of that, whereas you and Chuck Yeager, your character with Chuck Yeager, never have to face that, really. So there's quite a contrast
There's
here.
quite a contrast, but also the other half of that irony is Chuck never gets the press. I mean, right now, at this point in his life, but it's no, he doesn't. But at the same time, to break the sound barrier is certainly equally heroic. And they hushed it up. That's part of the irony of the film. I mean, and he never got any press. Of course, now he is. But
let's stay with the press too, if I may, because they are clambering over walls and coming through your windows and the whole thing. I'm curious if in your own lives as actresses you find all too many parallels with that sort of situation. Let's just ask both of you generally.
Well, from Betty's point of view, she was just so thrilled for the, I mean, here's a woman who sat and waited for her husband coming home, you know, and you never know, in months and weeks at a time they're gone and they're working, and oh my gosh, here all of a sudden you're something that's important. And the press has created that. They've put you on Life magazine. Betty loved it.
But now personally though, as actresses personally with families, home lives, you are gone from those things many times, and do you find a parallel, and do you like that separateness, that celebrity attention?
Sure, I think it's part of the job.
On a one-to-one basis I like it at the right time, but I don't like it in terms of that kind of monster that was depicted in, you know, I've never,
but I haven't really experienced.
I haven't dealt with, like, you know, Natalie Wood's funeral, them sitting in the trees. I haven't dealt with that kind of press, if that's press.
Now I have this pocket camera here. No, I'm just kidding. Both of you have worked with people in this film before. You've worked with Philip Kaufman before in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
And also Jeff Goldblum, who's in the
movie. Of course, yes.
He was my husband in Body Snatchers.
And in The Baby Maker, or The Rainmaker.
No, Baby Maker.
The Baby Maker, that's another film.
Whatever.
The Baby Maker with Sam Shepard.
No, with Scott Glenn.
I'm sorry. Scott Glenn.
The parallel in all the names is too funny anyway.
With John, Glenn, but reuniting, was it that? Or is it just a case of you hadn't seen each other in all of these years in both your situations? Or had you kept tabs?
Oh, yes, I love Phil. I think he's an absolutely terrific person. I think he's a wonderful director, and I think he cares about the people that he works with. And so it was great to see him again, and you do keep contact with people that you care about.
Was that the case with Scott Glenn then?
No, I didn't even see Scott Glenn. I'm in an entirely different section of the film. Today was the first time I've seen Scott Glenn in a long time.
We do forget, of course, the mechanics of filmmaking. It would have separated.
I mean, the Right Stuff shot over a very long period, and he wasn't at all in the section I was in.
Incidentally, I've just now heard about your reception of the award for The Entity at a film festival in France. I want to congratulate you, on that. Other remarkable film, generally.
Thanks a lot.
Science fiction fantasy. This one is not science fiction, of course. This is reality. But I'm curious if in either of your cases you have enjoyed science fiction or enjoyed following space flight over the years, that kind of thing. And maybe comments on Sally Ride's recent achievement.
Right.
Incidentally, the first mom in space will go up shortly, too, I understand. I forget the lady's name, but women are now much more of a visible part of the astronaut.
Well, what's really nice is that somebody, you know, like Sally Ride gets the opportunity to do it. I mean, she's just as educated, she's worked just as hard, and she's amazing in her field, and it's just... I mean, I don't think she wanted to be recognized as being the first woman in space.
Exactly.
She's doing a job, and that is really nice to be accepted for that.
It's so pointed up is an indication that we still, you know, it's still not a natural thing yet to send women into space. When it's not talked about, I think that's when it'll really be a piece of our culture.
I have just enough time left to ask you finally, if you were asked to strap on a piece of metal and go up into orbit, would you do it? Either of you?
I would have before I had a son. Now I don't know. Now I have a child.
Does change the priorities, doesn't it?
Things,
Veronica?
I'd probably do it.
All right.
What the hell?
All right. Good note to conclude on.
Veronica. First actress in space.
There you go.
Hey, and a woman to boot.
I'm going to be the first TV journalist in space if I don't get out of here. Our time is up. Veronica Cartwright as Betty Grissom, Barbara Hershey as glamorous Glennis Yeager in The Right Stuff, a lad company released through Warner Brothers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm John Tibbetts.